Here's some tips for handling the Pathetique Sonata by Beethoven. Measure 9 should be counted something like this. 1, E, and, 2, E, and, 3. Now, at the E flat and the D are in between the and the of 1. So you kind of got to squeeze those in there. 1, E, and, is that F. And then 2 starts on the B, E, and 3. Measure 10 is going to sound something like this. 1, E, and 2, E, and 3, E. Now this measure 10 is long. It's really got two parts to it. In the text they split it among systems, but it's really still just one measure. And I'll do the second half of the measure in just a second. The of measure 10, the 1, E, and starts on that D with the triplets or the 6. So you've got 1, E, and and you got to cram 6 notes in there for that of 1. 2, E, and 3, E. Now the and is actually tied over with that E flat. 3, E, and. So you have to start that D with your 4th finger right after the and. And I'm going to show you the fingerings on the text, and you can pause or whatever and copy them down, the ones that I use. I also wrote in some of the numbers too, if you're wondering where the beat is. Now, I'm showing you this on how to play these measures where the beat is. It's not necessarily how you would play it if you were playing the piece. I wouldn't accent all of the uhs and the ands, but just for demonstration purposes, I'm accenting the beats, the e's, the uhs, the ands, and the 1s, 2s, 3s, and 4s. So you can really hear the pulse of the music. It's important the listener at least get a sense of where the beat is. Once you know where the beat is, you can do whatever you want with it. But if the player doesn't know where the beat is, the listener's definitely not going to know where the beat is. So find where your ands and e's and numbers are, and then after you know where the beat is, you can kind of play around with it from there. So this second half of measure 10 is going to be 3, E, and That A is going to be your right there, okay? 3, E, and okay? And then you got to cram all these notes in down to D, to 4. That D with that G7 is your 4. Now I wrote the fingerings in here for the 4E, this chromatic scale. I don't use a lot of the fingerings. I do some of them, but I changed a couple of them that the text has. But basically you're going to fit 8 notes, looks like 8 notes in until you get to this F sharp, which will be the E. So 4, E, and it's going to be that A flat. So you're going to do 4, E, and Oh, one thing I do is I put my left hand on that G7 while I've got that 8th note rest there. So while I'm playing the 3E and part, I've already got my hand on that G7 ready. So when I hit that D, I don't have to think about it. So I do this chromatic scale here. Okay, so we got 3E and 4E and 1. One more time here. We got 3E and 4E and 1. Okay, measure 35 is more of a compositional technique, and if you've seen any of my other tutorials, you noticed on Beethoven's music, he likes to play notes that are chromatic, half step, outside of the chord before he resolves to a note in the chord. And if you look at measure 35, this is really just a G chord. So he's going to start with G, and then when he hits that F sharp, the note is outside of the key, and then it's going to resolve to a G. The next one is outside, followed by one that's inside. C and F sharp are outside, followed by B and G, which are inside of the chord, G. C and F sharp, which are followed by inside. So all of that is just one big G chord. Measure 38 or 39, you're going to see an A flat chord. Outside, inside. Outside, inside. Okay, measure 49 is when the hand crossing part begins. I find it easiest to do the hand crossing if you cross under your right hand and put your left hand on that B flat. You're going to take that B flat with your pinky or your fourth finger, and that leaves your right hand right next to the next measure where you need to play the melody in the bass clef. So it should be something like, much easier to do if I do left over the right. It's pretty difficult. So measure 89, what I do to practice this part is block the chords. Don't play them as single notes when you start practicing them. Instead, do this until you can play it in time with the metronome. It's going to be a lot easier once you can play them as a chord. You won't be relying so much on muscle memory either, which is not what you want to do. You want to know what you're playing. You want to know the chords that you're supposed to be playing instead of just relying on your fingers to do the memorizing. So I would play this with a metronome until I get it up to tempo. In measure 149, this is the development section. You're going to find that Beethoven uses that same trick again, picking notes that go outside of the chord, chromatic by half step, and resolving to notes that are in the chord. This chord here is a C7 he's going to outline. Now the B flat serves as a pedal, but if you look at this D flat, it's outside, resolves to a C, which is inside. The next one, F to E, D flat to C, F to E, F sharp to G. So all that is going to give you a C7 chord. Measure 153. It's going to be an F chord. It's going to be the same technique. It's got a pedal of an A in the right hand. G flat resolves chromatically by half step. D flat to a C. G flat to an F. Now all of these notes are resolving to the F major chord. So it outlines FAC, which is just an F major triad. Finally, you're going to see that 157, you've got a diminished chord here, with an A flat pedal, and that A flat is going to turn into a G7, or that A flat note, I should say, in the right hand. It's going to resolve to a G, turning the chord into a G7, and eventually getting you back to C minor, which is the point of a sonata. You're doing a recap, you want to be back in the home key, which is C minor. So